And we do wish you a good morning. You're listening to Power Talks with Melody and Beth Ann in the morning, and Melody's still tapping away on a Friday. You're listening to Power Talks, where talk is real. Truth is in the talk, and we believe there is power, ultimate power in the truth. Good morning, Melody.
And good morning to you. And yes, I'm tapping because it's Friday.
It is
TGIF, and I'll tell you what, I'm looking forward to it. Even though I work on Saturdays most of the time, Friday you just
different.
Things done, and it is because there's no stress on Saturdays. When I work on Saturdays, there's no stress. So
that's good.
So we're looking forward to, or I'm looking forward to
Friday evenings. I think are my favorite. I really like to go do something, although the other guy there at the house, he doesn't care to go do stuff that much. But it's kind of my favorite kick-down evening. I like Fridays. I don't know. Anyway, you know, when we started out this show, we were going to do history every once in a while.
Yes.
This is so provincial. I'm providential. This is so awesome, Melody. So I looked up what happened on this day, March 9th, and in other years. And you know what the very first one was? You're not going to. Are you sitting down?
I'm sitting down.
Barbie doll in 1959.
Oh, my. No, we're not. No way are we going there again today.
1959, Barbie doll makes a debut at the American Toy Fair in New York. Toys from the 1950s. The doll was designed by Ruth Handler and introduced by Mattel Toy Company, costing $3. Now, what does a Barbie doll cost? I kid you not. That's the top one on this history thing that I thought, oh, my gosh, that is just so funny.
Say it isn't so.
It is so. but we're talking about the economy, and we're talking about inflation. In 1959, a Barbie doll was $3. $3, and now they're 15, 20, 25, 20, $30, 40. I mean, they're real expensive now, and they're not what they used to be. And of course, you used to get a Barbie doll, and you dressed her up like whatever. Now you buy a Barbie doll for everything. And anyway, I thought it was just so funny that was the first thing that popped up was the Barbie doll. In 1933, the U.S. Emergency Banking Act came to be. President Franklin Roosevelt submits the Emergency Banking Act to Congress to ease the run on small banks, causing them to go into bankruptcy. I thought that was interesting.
And now we're eliminating regulations for the small banks that they say that are going out of business.
And in 1955, USA, James Dean's first performance in major film started at this date. He starred in a movie entitled East of Eden, for which he had won an Academy Award nomination. And in 1974, the U.S.-Alaska Pipeline. Work on the 800-mile-long Alaska oil pipeline connecting oil fields in northern Alaska to the seaport of Valdez. It is completed in just over 2 years in 1977 and transports up to 2 million barrels of oil per day. Romania in 1977 had a horrible earthquake, and they used rescue dogs trained to find people. 1997, it said the USA Notorious Big Shot, a rapper known as Notorious Big, was Christopher Wallace, was shot to death in a drive-by shooting while sitting at a stoplight in Los Angeles. I just kind of barely remember that, just barely. And I thought this was interesting, and I've really been thinking about this particular person off and on here in the last couple of months. Michael Jackson, and this was in 2005, if you remember. The child at the center of the case against Michael Jackson took the witness stand, saying he once considered the pop star being tried for allegedly molesting him the coolest guy in the world. Hollywood never mentions Michael Jackson, and we know he was an abuser and a pedophile. And, in 2011, Illinois abolished the death penalty. And that's pretty much, I mean, there's a whole bunch of stuff there, but I don't, the Barbie doll was at the top of the list.
Oh.
I just had to tell you about that.
I bet you
want to know.
I bet you were real happy.
I was so excited. Oh my gosh, this is just, this was a godsend.
Well, there's another anniversary today. Today marks the bull market from the Great Recession is turning 9 years old, and stocks hit their financial crisis lows on March 9th, 2009. On that day, the Dow closed at 6,547, and the S&P sank to 677. And it really was, the article calls it a terrifying time. Not for us. I mean, we kind of knew it was happening, and all my clients were prepared and so forth, and so we kind of breezed through it. But and that's the beauty of having gold and silver. There was a lot of fear in the markets, and that fear was eventually placed by greed as we see the economy recover. But the Federal Reserve pumped in trillions and trillions of dollars to get the economy going, to stimulate the economy, just as we have other world countries doing the same thing. And so now we have that the Dow, this is the second strongest bull market in history, and the question is whether the bull run will live to see its 10th birthday. And, of course, a lot of people think if you talk about anything else, you're being all negative, but that's really not true. If you're prepared for it, it's interesting to know what's going to happen and when it's going to happen. We certainly see worries about inflation, which fiat currency, you're going to get inflation. You get various types of inflation, but inflation is there to stay. You need a weaker dollar. Government wants a weaker dollar, and that is what you're going to get. Even though we can have periods of time where the dollar can show strength, but the strength of the dollar is, for trade and so forth, is not so good. And the reason I'm bringing that up, as far as the bull market, we've had today, we talked about the ADP report on Wednesday came out. They were looking at, 255,000 or something like that. Well, today the non-farm payrolls rose by 313,000 in February. A short month, so you don't have the full days in there. Mm-hmm. So, but the unemployment rate remained at 4.1%. Wage growth was muted. So again, we have with the stock market futures were surging prior to this, and I guess the Dow is up 100 points or so this morning. I didn't look to see what exactly it was right before we came on air. Let's see if there was any interesting things that came into this report. This is the first time that I've really been looking at it. Construction jobs led the way. 61,000 new positions, followed by retail and professional and business services, manufacturing, and then financial activities. Healthcare added 19,000, which is interesting because we've been seeing healthcare really lead the pack when we have these good job reports, but not so much this time. And mining saw just 9,000 new jobs. So seems like the average work week rose by 0.1 hours to 34.5 hours. And so, everybody thinks and hopes that this Goldilocks economy continues. And, I guess if we all cross our fingers and our toes, everybody is holding their breath. And I think when we're in a position that we're holding our breath and having our fingers crossed and toes crossed, everybody's expecting it to fall. You don't have good fundamentals that pushed it to these levels. There's a lot of views that, eventually the fundamentals will overtake the stimulus. But, there are some that are skeptics, as I am. Anyway, so non-farm payrolls increased by 313,000 in February. And I didn't see where they did any revisions, though, for last month. And usually, I'll have to look a little bit deeper and, maybe bring it to later on in the program. But usually they always have revisions from the month before. And in this report, I don't see any. And So that probably means that, here we go. Previous month's counts, they too were revised substantially higher. December went from 160 to 175, and it really is just amazing. They're still revising December's.
Yeah,
the government can't get it right. You kind of wonder where these numbers really do come from.
Well, they did have that little shutdown there for a little bit,
Oh, 3 hours over the weekend. It was over the weekend where they didn't work anyway.
I know. Just trying to help them out there. But something you said at the beginning. If something happens, if there is a collapse, and you haven't prepared, and I'm talking to our audience here, you're going to be in trouble. If nothing happens and you are prepared, you're out nothing. You've lost nothing because your gold and your silver are still of great value, and you've lost to nothing. So, it's kind of a situation where I guess you have to make up your mind. Do you want to take the gamble that nothing is going to happen, and whether it's a total collapse or partial collapse or whatever it might be, your 401k's just about tank, or the IRAs, do you want to take that risk, or do you want to invest in gold and silver and have a little insurance policy going there? You're out nothing if you do, but if you don't, things could get ugly.
Well, you said two things, the insurance policy. I mean, having the markets drop, having geopolitical problems, I mean, these are just the reasons why people go to a safe haven, and gold has always been that safe haven.
Right.
And you buy gold for that insurance policy. I mean, it's just like you buy the fire insurance on your home. I mean, you don't expect a fire, but you have it just in case there is. And you pay those premiums every year even though you don't use any of your insurance. And you pray that you never have to use your insurance because of a fire on your home. And gold is really the same way. You buy gold. It is the wealth insurance. It protects your wealth in case of geopolitical situations, because of all these types of situations that you really have no control over. So it is the insurance policy. You just don't buy it for the collapse in the stock market.
Because it's pretty.
You just don't buy it and your purchasing power. It's just not for these events that, people have been saying that, that we're going to have these, major things and then nothing happens. There's a video being touted now that March 11th is doomsday. And it's just like, it's a scam, ladies and gentlemen. Because no one knows. No one can predict days. But people buy into it. Then when they don't happen, they get disappointed. We buy gold also because we do have that fiat system. We know what happens to fiat systems. This is no different. And I don't care if you have Santa Claus in charge. It's going to play out because of the fiat dollar. And until we fix that situation, we're still going to have all these problems. The economies are going to be micromanaged. You're going to have the loss of your purchasing power. That's not going to change. So we are on this path. This is where we're headed. And we're also headed right into our first break.
I knew you were going to say that. I should have put some money down on that. We're going into a break. Your calls are welcome. It is Friday. Open mic. We'll talk about almost anything you want to talk about at 717-300-1218. That's 717-300-1218. I'll talk about Barbie dolls. I don't know that you can get Melody to do that.
No, I don't think so.
717-300-1218, and we will be right back.
Hear it first on FirstAmendmentRadio.com and FirstAmendmentRadio.net. Gold and silver is tremendously undervalued. Global demand vastly exceeds mine supply by more than 60% annually. There is little in the financial world more certain than a coming explosion in the prices of gold and silver. The U.S. dollar continues to lose value and respect as the world's reserve currency. Our nation faces challenges on many fronts, and a day doesn't pass without another economist bringing forth warnings of impending economic calamity. There has never been a better time than right now to acquire physical gold and silver. Discount Gold and Silver Trading was founded on the principles of truth and honesty. We believe in providing a quality product, quality service, and most importantly, competitive pricing. We provide all forms of precious metals, including American gold, silver, platinum, and rare investment and circulated coins. Silver bars, rounds, and 90% silver bags are on hand for the silver investor. Gold self-directed IRAs are available. Call Discount Gold and Silver Trading at 1-800-375-4188. Toll free, that's 1-800-375-4188.
Visit crosstheborder.org, CROSS, crosstheborder.org, to get your print, EPUB, or PDF version of Nicholas Arthur's new book titled When the Third Temple is Built. That's crosstheborder.org. When it comes to prophecy today, much of the evangelical Christian world has their eyes on Israel, waiting and watching to see when the third temple will begin to be built. The plans are drawn. The Jewish people are eager. Most evangelical Christians today believe that the rapture will happen before the third temple is built. Hi, I'm Michael Eugene. I was taught that Daniel's 70th week was in the future. Is that really what the Bible teaches? Have we searched the Scriptures and found this to be true? Why is it so important for a reestablished Israel to build a third temple in Jerusalem? Is it necessary to build a temple on the same location already occupied by the Dome of the Rock? Is it necessary for sacrifices to take place in the temple on Temple Mount? Is there really a rapture followed by 7 years of tribulation? What is the New Testament temple? Can we identify history and prophecy? Who is the first beast in Revelation chapter 13? Who are the 7 kings in Revelation 17? I have asked all these questions, and I have found Nicholas Arthur's new book, When the Third Temple is Built, answers all these questions and more using Scripture to interpret Scripture. The Bible says that no prophecy of Scripture is of any private interpretation. Nicholas shows us in his new book, When the Third Temple is Built, how the Bible interprets prophecy and not man's private interpretation. Visit crosstheborder.org, CROSS, crosstheborder.org, to get your print, EPUB, or PDF version of Nicholas Arthur's new book titled When the Third Temple is Built. That's crosstheborder.org.
Years ahead of the dominant media, FirstAmendmentRadio.com and FirstAmendmentRadio.net.
We had a pretty good segment during the commercial. We were talking about North Korea. Everybody else is talking about it. Do you want to talk about it?
Sure, we could do it again.
Just did during commercial. Of course,
well,
I get a big kick, though, out of mainstream media because they can't give Trump any credit for anything. And, obviously there's been enough going on that they've decided they're going to come to the table, and they've made these actions before, and the time will tell whether anything truly gets done of significance for any of the countries. But it's interesting to see how this is playing out.
It really is, and we really don't know who played who. We don't know if Kim played Trump, Trump played Kim, and it was probably a little bit of both. And I don't even know if it was all staged or not. It could have all these talks and verbal attacks to one. It could have all been orchestrated. I mean, some people. I mean, if you just don't believe in that it all works together, and they all have their agendas, and they all have their little insiders who talk to one another and so forth, we'll never be a part of. It will never be shared with us. You just can't tell me it doesn't go on. And I'll give Trump credit. He could have turned them down. So yes, I do give Trump credit, and he should get credit for this. But we're going to have to see how it all plays out. But I think Kim probably already has the capability of the nuclear weapon, or he wouldn't be coming to the table now. He says he would give it up. Well, if you tell somebody you don't have it, sure, you're going to give it up, even though it's sitting there in your And we all know that these, when they go into view, just like Iran, you don't think Iran doesn't have a nuclear weapon or is capable or maybe they haven't put the two together, but they have the two pieces sitting there waiting to put it together. We know something. I heard a statement this morning. Well, we all know there's going to be a situation between Iran and Israel and Hezbollah, and thank goodness it's not going to be nuclear. Well, how do you know? How do they know? And, even Iran in their agreements have said, when you can come in and inspect this country, but you can't go here, you can't go there, and you can't go there. So, and I think North Korea could do something of the same. We know Kim wanted to be recognized. We know he wanted to be part of the world players. And if you got somebody like Russia behind you, and he's willing to talk to South Korea, but he's also going to want our troops removed.
Mm-hmm.
And so, to me, that's probably the biggest. Will we remove our troops?
And the talking heads, last night I was listening. I switched to different stations, but the talking heads, they were talking that they thought China might have played a big part in this. After they still think that, and I don't know, Melody. I'm just talking about what these talking heads were saying. The threat of or the talk of tariffs on the steel and aluminum. That that some of these sanctions and that what they've been using against Korea and China and some of these others, anybody that's helping North Korea, I'm sorry, it's they say it's obviously playing a toll right now, but they think China is the one that's really pushing Kim to come to the table because they don't want to get hurt either. But I don't know.
Well, China also wants those military on the. They also want our military removed. China does. I think the bigger player was Russia from last week and the announcements of their nuclear capabilities and so forth. That was powerful. That was powerful. I think that's what played into all these decisions, and I think now Kim feels comfortable that he's willing to come to the table and talk. So, we can give credit to all of them. To some degree, and hopefully that they can come to, some sort of meeting of the minds. And
it's a strange way of coming to conclude or coming to the table, isn't it?
So the announcement is welcome, no matter how you look at it. We'll just have to see how it plays out. U.S. Senator Lindsey Graham, he warned Kim yesterday that it will be the end of him if he tries to take advantage. But
Lindsey Graham's doing the threats now.
He's doing the threats now. Yes. So it will be interesting to see how it plays out. Again, this is something where we keep our fingers crossed and hope it all works out. And we'll give credit where credit is due. And if that credit is Mr. Trump, then he will get the credit. So we'll see how this plays out. And but again, there's always things, and with Tillerson, we hear things. Tillerson wasn't involved in this, and it came up kind of a surprise to everyone. I don't know that.
I don't buy that. I don't buy that.
I don't know why Trump wasn't out on the front lawn with the South Korean delegation in making the statement. It was kind of a bizarre release of this information and so forth. The announcement was made hours before they actually went on the front lawn, and the South Korean delegation made the announcement. So it was a little bizarre. But again, then when you come back to the oil and to Tillerson, you just think all the connections are there. But for the citizens of this country, it's a good thing.
I think it's a good thing, and as far as that being bizarre, it seemed a little bit odd, but at the same time, that might have been what they wanted. They might have wanted to do it that way. There's lots of actors in this play, so, there's no telling who wrote the script. But anyway, I think it's a good thing, and we'll see what comes.
Well, when you see how things have been handled for the past year, and, where you have all these weird kind of situations, whether they're good We can look at them as good and so forth. We'll do that today. You just take it for what it is, and just be glad that they're talking instead of fighting and flicking nuclear weapons across the oceans at one another. So
well, they did discuss, of course, the mainstream media went ballistic when the tweets from Kim and President Donald Trump were going back and forth, and they were calling each other names, and you know how President Trump likes to. Well, it is, but at the same time,
and that's why I don't believe it. I don't think it had anything to do with it.
Kim actually was flattered by the term Rocket Man. He wasn't insulted, he was flattered. But now he's Mr. Un. Now he's Mr. Kim Jong-un.
Yeah. I know.
Well.
Theatrics at your best. Theatrics at your best. And,
yes, there was a joke. There was a joke in the morning's newspaper today that the Oscar goes to the actors that believed what was the, I'm going to blow this one, that believed were surprised in harassment with sexual harassment charges, the ones that were surprised that it happened. That's where the Oscar went to those actors and actresses.
Yes.
I knew I blew it.
Yeah, you did.
Anyway, I know. I go back to my Barbie doll.
Well, what I really found interesting at all when I was watching some of the programs this morning is they were trying to, tear this apart, and a lot of journalists gave Trump praise, from the
from the mainstream media, CNN and MSNBC.
CNN, MSNBC, and the hosts were trying to downgrade and everything. And it's like, well, we're glad we're at this point. This is a good point to be. We'll still have to see how it plays out and see if a quote unquote deal can be done. But but they've done this before with the tax cuts and everything else, and then 2 days later they're right back to their.
I was going to say, did any of them say this is huge?
No, this is huge. No, they don't. Just like they didn't talk about Barbie dolls either.
I'm starting to get a little bit of a complex here, Melody.
Not at all. Not at all.
I can't help it. History is history, Barbie doll history is history.
Yes.
Well, then they're having this issue over the immigration. We know that that's going on, and I really was impressed. I only saw part of it, so I will confess that. It was the ICE director, and he was on Tucker Carlson, and he was interviewing him, and he was kind of going after these, particularly the mayor, the sanctuary cities and states and stuff. But they put the ICE agents, the federal agents, in such a dangerous situation. And while she's claiming that she's protecting people, she's actually not, because the ones that they were after, they're not just somebody that's here illegally and they're going to deport them. These are criminals. They are convicted criminals, some of them, that are out, and they are for murder, for rape, for, let's see, what did he say, for molestation of children, all kinds of crimes, theft, drugs, and she protected them. And they usually they're usually of the most danger in those neighborhoods where they're trying to get them out of. The neighborhoods where these immigrants live. And, of course, these aren't immigrants. These are illegal aliens that are here. Sex robbery convictions. These guys are bad guys, and she protected them. And a lot of them, they're Democrats and Republicans alike in these neighborhoods. They're not really supportive of this, of the sanctuary cities and states, because it's putting their lives and their families in danger.
Well, I mean, these sanctuary cities, I mean, absolutely. And that's kind of been a little bit, any immigration reforms have sort of been taken out of the news also. You don't hear anybody following up on that anymore. We should be bringing Mike back on the program to give us some updates and so forth.
I'll get a hold of him.
Yeah, see if he can give us some updates on the expiration of DACA and where that goes. And, I'd be interested to, get the truth from him, because he is certainly
boots on the ground.
He was
certainly
livid.
Is.
Yeah.
I'm going to tell you, he was livid. He called me in the office a week ago, and he was livid over what she had done and the danger that it puts these people in, because he's been there. So,
So
these agents in danger.
So maybe we can do that next week, and that would be great.
I'll work on that.
That would be great.
I'll send him an email today.
We were talking about the bull run that we're having in the stock markets, and the ratio of wealth to income is pretty high levels right now. But what's still concerning about that is the savings rate.
Mm-hmm.
The American savings was 3.74% for 2017, down from 5.98% a year earlier, and 7.19% in 2015. That's a huge drop. That's a huge drop from just 2015 in savings rates. The U.S. households saw their net worth rise to nearly 7 times their disposable personal income in 2017, and swelling past earlier pre-recession peaks. However, to look at the other side of this coin, previous busts, both in the early 2000s and, of course, the Great Recession, they were all preceded by periods of rising asset values and low savings. People don't have the money to protect them through these adjustments, and that's what your gold and silver would do. The current wealth-to-income level surpasses that seen in the run-up to earlier recessions. So here is just another sign that, yes, it's great. It looks like the disposable, the wealth of customers or not customers, but the wealth of the American people are improving. But on the other hand, when you look at other periods where this is happening, these were all signs, 2x4s floating through the air, getting ready to smack people in the head that a recession is coming. These are signals. These are signs. Mm-hmm. And so again, it's debt. Maybe they're not saving things or saving money. Their savings has dropped so much because they're going deeper and deeper in debt. And so they don't have the money to save. We talk about wage increases. Well, if the wages are improving, they should be able to save, but they're not. They're spending. They have this euphoria, and that's what government likes. They don't want people, as much as they say we like to see American people save, they don't want you to save. That would ruin.
No, it's like when President Bush sent the $600 stimulus money out and tells everybody, spend, spend, spend. Yeah, well.
Yeah, and they don't want you to save.
Absolutely not.
So, people get caught up into it, and it's easy to do. All these advertisements, and, we talked about magazines, I think on the other show the other day, where, the rates of postage were rising on magazines. It's like, well, who gets magazines anymore? You get 100 pages in a magazine, and 99 of them are ads.
Commercials, yeah.
Or ads. I mean, they don't have any. What's there to read? I don't want to page through to look at advertisements geared to people under 30.
Yeah.
I
want something.
I don't want to buy bikinis.
We're going to subscribe to Mature Magazine.
Yeah. We just go to AARP.
No, I don't. No, I
don't either. I don't either.
And I don't get magazines anymore. I quit doing that a long, long time ago. Every now and then I'll buy one buy something Woman's Day or something. They are expensive. But I do like to read some of it, and And, they have recipes and makeup ideas and tell you how to look like a Barbie doll. Gonna run that joke into the ground, that, right?
I know it. Give out our call, and your Barbie jokes are welcome today.
Yes, 717-300-1218. 717-300-1218 is the number to call. It is Friday, and it is open mic day. I don't know what to say.
And we're on talk radio, so we can't run out of things to say.
We can't run out of things. Well, I doubt that we would anyway.
No, you would.
Maybe out of things that people want to hear, but I don't think we'll run out of something to say. I had mentioned way back that I was hoping and praying, and I don't know that this is necessarily true yet, that our Mr. Sessions was back like the quiet little mouse, back behind the scenes doing all kinds of things and getting things going. Well, they have opened the criminal investigation into Sanders' campaign for collusion and with a foreign entity. And, of course, I think I mentioned that before, but it was Australia before. Now they're saying that he has some connections as well, that with this collusion that's going on. He was taking money from the Australian labor union. And so they are investigating that. They are going back and investigating the Clintons, the Clinton Foundation. And, so there are things happening. I don't know that anything will get done in a just world that should be and isn't. We ought to be seeing a lot of people handcuffed and going to prison, but I don't know that we'll ever get to see that. They're going to put another council together, and I think he's named who that's going to be, and I missed that. Did you catch that? Who that next special counsel is going to be to investigate the investigators, something like that. Because I just worry about the money and the time, and I think it's a distraction.
You know what? They're distractions, and I mean it's just like there's the big news is Stormy Daniels, and no one really does talk about this. I don't know if it's worth talking about it. It's just a little bit of a scandal, and I guess when you run in those circles, you're going to have these scandals and so forth, but there is going to be a 60-minute segment, and no date has been released as far as the airing of the interview of Stephanie Clifford. And it's sometimes the bad thing about this is that they want it in the news to discredit Trump. They don't care so much about Melania and so forth, and it is just to discredit him and so forth. But when we are talking about money and we are talking about possible campaign and so forth, I want to know who spent the $15 million on the slush fund. That's where I want to know where that money went. So quit focusing on Clifford and find out where that went.
You tell him, Melody. You tell him.
But it is an interesting, and particularly in today's world, that we've seen, with women and all this stuff, and again, it's just another distraction and so forth.
I've kind of flipped the pages on that one. I didn't want to read about it, but I did read one little thing one day and it was right after Cohen had resigned, that he was one of them that apparently had spoke to her prior to and paid her off.
Well, there's two Cohens. You have Michael Cohen. No, you have two Cohens.
So it's not the same one. All right.
It's Trump's attorney, his personal attorney,
All
Michael
right.
Cohen.
Okay. I just saw, like I said, I flipped through them pretty fast, and I saw that, and I thought, oh, my gosh.
And the deal was, and the reason she's able to talk is because this non-disclosure agreement wasn't signed by Trump, and he went by a different name. And it wasn't signed. It was only signed by the attorney, I believe. And so, I don't know where it's leading, if it means anything. But, You know,
she wants to get her name.
You can't allow it to happen to one person and then just totally disregard it if it happens to someone else because you favor that person. I mean, it's, so.
Well, I agree with that, but I see so much finger pointing going on.
Oh, and there it is.
And when the ones that are pointing the finger.
She didn't think there was any finger pointing going on. I mean, there's always finger pointing going on.
No, I'm saying that the ones that are pointing the finger all the time, when they got caught in the scandals, I thought it was funny. It's not funny that they're those kind of people. That's not what I meant. But my dad used to say, people judge you by the way they are. So here we have, they've set this up. I don't believe Trump was colluding with the Russians. And they've set that all up, trying to frame him. And the ones that actually were framing him are the ones who actually did it.
Well, I wasn't talking about the Russians.
I know you weren't, but it's the same thing with this sexual mess. They're the ones pointing at him and look at
and turn around and they're doing the same thing.
Oh, absolutely, absolutely.
But
I mean, we know he's not a choir boy. We knew that a long time ago.
Hey, we got Tom in Michigan calling us this morning. Good morning, Tom.
Good morning, Tom.
Good morning.
Are you there, Tom? Did we lose Tom? He might have got impatient with us.
Hold on.
There you are. How are you doing, Tom?
Okay. About the terror recently, there's going to be some countries that are going to be exempted. So now, it looks like our President Trump is caved in to the pressure where it was going to be uniform across the board, all imports on steel or aluminum. Now the government's going to get to pick winners this is a fine example to show they're wrecking the language. This shows that it is a sanction and it's not a tariff. By definition, a tariff is in the Constitution. It's an indirect tax and it has to be uniform. If the government is picking winners and losers or using it to punish, it's a sanction. It's not a tariff.
You're absolutely correct.
This is what they're doing to our language. Even in the scriptures, where we have a Israeli Eastern religion, but then you see these Jesus, he's like a European looking, like a Roman soldier looking pictures. And even the name Jesus
you're right.
There was no such name.
Tom, we're going into a break. We're running out of time, and we're going into a break. We're going into the break. 717-300-1218. I'm sorry to cut you off, Tom, and we'll be right back.
Hear it first on FirstAmendmentRadio.com and FirstAmendmentRadio.net. Since the beginning of time, kings have sought it, nations have fought for it. It has been traded, it has been borrowed, it has been purchased, it has been stolen. There's a reason for it. To secure the blessings of liberty to ourselves and to our posterity. Invest with the security of gold and silver. Call Discount Gold and Silver Trading at 1-800-375-4188 or visit discountgoldandsilvertrading.net. Listen to Financial Survival with your host Melody Cedarstrom right here on FirstAmendmentRadio.com at 4 p.m. Eastern or 1 p.m. Pacific Time. Visit discountgoldandsilvertrading.net or call Discount Gold and Silver Trading at 1-800-375-4188. Toll free 1-800-375-4188. The program you are listening to is 100% sponsored by you, the listener, on this First Amendment Rights Media channel. You will notice that there are few commercials on this radio network. There's a good reason for that. Corporate advertising dollars come with strings that limit program content. So without your help, these programs cannot continue on Internet or our several affiliates. If you benefit by the educational law programs, we ask you to give. If you are admonished or nurtured by the Bible and ministry programs, we ask you to give. If some voice a cause that you are passionate about, we ask you to give. If you believe in any of these, we ask you to support them as you would a missionary on a continual basis, as if giving a tithe for missionary radio. These programs are not commercially viable and must be supported by those faithful to the cause of truth. Look for the button to sponsor your favorite programs at our listen and schedule pages on the Internet. Then, when you subscribe, we will send you the last quarterly MP3 CD of that program immediately, and continue to do so with each new quarter. We will also give you unlimited archive access to all of our programs. We're asking you to give much less than a tithe, so that you may also send support directly to a particular program host, cause, and anywhere else the Spirit may lead you. Do all to the glory of our God and Creator, for His holy nation, the only kingdom that will last forever. Thank you for listening. Hear it first on FirstAmendmentRadio.com and FirstAmendmentRadio.net.
I'm going to have to keep it really short and quick. Tom, I'm going to let you finish up what you were saying, but your phone is cutting out. I'm only hearing about every third word is cut out. So be quick, please.
Well, if the phone's no good, just cut me off. I'll call back again with some other time with the same subject matter. But I had an old 59 Geneva Bible. It didn't even have the letter J in it. I mean, I'm thinking that, there's a web page. The guy's name is Craig Wynn, yadaya.com, I believe. But he studied Hebrew, and in the Bible, the 7,000 times they use the name Yahweh. They replaced it with the word Lord, and Lord is the antithesis of Father. The word Lord, they use that for Baal, which was basically in the same league with Satan and Lucifer. So I think the whole paradigm of Christianity, they wanted to cut the Yah out of the Bible because apparently, the great unwashed, we're not good enough to understand these kind of things. And when they changed the language, okay, America is a continent, not a country. Yeah. I mean, when they ask me where I'm from, well, Earth, that's dirt. So I guess I'll just say, well, I'm from dirt. And
but language. I'm going to. But language is different. Language is different everywhere, even just from one side of this nation to the other. So words can mean different things. In different areas. So thank you, Tom. Appreciate the call.
Well, I know I'm from dirt.
Well, at least you're not old.
I'm from planet Earth.
Take me to your leader. Okay, we're gonna go to Joe in Arkansas. Good morning, Joe. How are you?
Yeah, I'm all right. And how are you all?
Doing pretty good.
Yeah, okay. I wanted to comment on this idea of Trump's tariffs being designed for the government to pick winners and losers, and that's this. They might be somewhat designed to favor certain specific steel companies, maybe. Although I get the impression that they were designed more to help the aluminum and steel industries in America overall, which is perfectly legitimate. That's not singling out certain aluminum companies and certain steel companies for special favors. But if they're designed to protect the whole industry in general, that's the impression I got of what they are, and that's perfectly right and proper. But economist Ian Fletcher has quite a bit to say about this kind of thing in his book, Free Trade Doesn't Work, What Should Replace It and Why. And he talked about how in the 19th century, tariffs were often set because certain industrialists had a good lobby in Congress, and they lobbied Congress for tariffs to protect their particular manufacturing operations from competition from Europe. And so that, it wasn't always done with the highest motives of just helping the country overall. all, but there was some targeted, protection for specific industries or specific companies and so on like that. But he said it had the overall effect that we developed industry and manufacturing wonderfully in this country, and it created lots and lots and lots of good-paying jobs for the American workers, and the American middle class flourished as a result of it. So overall, even though it wasn't always done with the highest and best of motives, it worked out generally for the good of the country. And let's also not forget that the trade policies that we have been following have been designed specifically to harm this country and to build up certain other countries, like especially China, and then maybe Mexico and some others too. So Trump is doing something to fight on our side rather than follow the trade policies that have been deliberately designed to harm us. Okay,
yeah,
that's what I want to say on that.
I don't know if the trade agreements that we've had that were created, I don't know if they eliminated the tariffs at those point in times. So, I mean, there are two separate issues. And I think, and again, I might misunderstood, but what Tom was talking about is, as far as targeting, is countries, not specific steel companies or specific areas. So it was the countries. You have the tariffs that were to be announced, and then next thing you know, we have Mexico and Canada that are being exempted, and then the final signing of it, or the final part of it, was if any country can prove that they're going to be hurt by the tariffs, they would also be considered for exemption. So who do the tariffs apply to if you can get yourself exempted by showing that it would be hurtful to your country? So you are targeting countries.
And is this another step to try and get people back to the table? Because President Trump talked about long before he was elected about renegotiating the NAFTA and the GATT and CAFTA and the free trade, the TPP, to renegotiate these things so that we're not always on the bottom end of that totem pole.
Well, that's all fine and dandy when it comes to Canada and Mexico, but now you're also saying that the countries that are being affected by these tariffs can basically possibly be exempt. So you are targeting certain, countries. And
I understand that, but
if you do tariffs, it should be tariffs across the board, period.
I understand that, but my point was, is he doing these things to bring people to the table, to get back in, and because nobody was willing to negotiate. Now all of a sudden, because he's acted and done something, everybody, well, let's talk about this. We want exempted from it. We want this. But is he doing this to bring people to the table to renegotiate TPP?
Well, I hope that's the case. Well, that should be the case. But
that's what I'm hoping.
But still, it's. I don't know, and this is another thing that we just get this, and we're just going to have to wait and see what happens, and use a little bit of history and use a little bit about where we're at today in the world of things, and also our debt, because you also have to look at, I talked to you during the break. We had the company that. Did you have anything else, Joe? We'll let you go.
Yeah, I would like to make another comment here. And that's that maybe you don't like these targeted tariffs, but they're perfectly constitutional. All the Constitution says about this kind of thing is that Congress has the power to regulate and tax foreign trade. And it does not say they have to do it even-handedly, dealing with every country the same. And so whatever authority the president has would be similar also. So maybe you don't like the way they're going about it, specifically targeting certain countries, but it is absolutely perfectly legal and constitutional for them to do that.
Joe, it's not a matter. Thank you, Joe. I appreciate your call. It's not a matter whether I like it or I don't like it. It's not a matter whether I like it or I don't like it. It's a discussion. And if you can't talk about things, then what does it matter? And,
well, and it wasn't a matter of like or not like. It was a matter of what the language was. Is it truly a tariff, or is it, if we pick and choose, then it becomes a sanction? So, that was what we were discussing, not whether we liked it or don't like it. I'm going to like it a whole lot if it really helps. I'm not going to like it at all if it doesn't. So, I'm kind of like that.
It does come down to costs. It does really, truly come down to costs. I mean, you have Paul Ryan, and I'm not a fan of Paul Ryan. Just because I mention his name doesn't mean that I'm a fan of his. but he doesn't go along with the tariffs, and he was always step in step with Trump. So I wonder why he's pulling against, the tariff deal. And I'm thinking, well, you know what? There was that big agreement with one of the South Korean companies, and I can't recall the name off the top of my head, that was going into his state, Wisconsin. They were going to build this big plant. It was going to hire thousands of people, and it was going to build gadgets, computers, cell phones, whatever, that this company. And so tariffs on the steel, or even if they purchase the steel from this country, is going to increase their costs. So now they made this huge agreement to build, to construct, to bring jobs to this area in Wisconsin, and now their costs are going to be changing. So I don't know if that has impacts on perhaps loosening, and not being so strict on just, it's a flat across the board and so forth, to where they could still be, the increase wouldn't impact them. So there are companies that will be impacted with higher costs. If they make commitments, you have to ask yourself, what kind of impact can they have on the politicians?
I saw an interview last night of a gentleman whose family is directly affected by the reopening of one of these steel plants here in the United States. It was very emotional because they have been out of work. I want America to go back to production. I want us to prosper. I don't care if other countries are making money in the process as well. I'm okay with everybody making money, but I want America to prosper and go back and be in the business of being productive. And I hear the music, and we are free for the weekend and free out of time. Melody, thank you. Thank you, all the callers. Appreciate it. We'll see you on Monday morning.
Visit crosstheborder.org, CROSS, crosstheborder.org, to get your print, EPUB, or PDF version of Nicholas Arthur's new book titled When the Third Temple is Built. That's crosstheborder.org. When it comes to prophecy today, much of the evangelical Christian world has their eyes on Israel, waiting and watching to see when the third temple will begin to be built. The plans are drawn. The Jewish people are eager. Most evangelical Christians today believe that the rapture will happen before the third temple is built. Hi, I'm Michael Eugene. I was taught that Daniel's 70th week was in the future. Is that really what the Bible teaches? Have we searched the Scriptures and found this to be true? Why is it so important for a re-established Israel to build a third temple in Jerusalem? Is it necessary to build a temple on the same location already occupied by the Dome of the Rock? Is it necessary for sacrifices to take place in the temple on Temple Mount? Is there really a rapture followed by 7 years of tribulation? What is the New Testament temple? Can we identify history and prophecy? Who is the first beast in Revelation chapter 13? Who are the 7 kings in Revelation 17? I have asked all these questions, and I have found Nicholas Arthur's new book, When the Third Temple is Built, answers all these questions and more using Scripture to interpret Scripture. The Bible says that no prophecy of Scripture is of any private interpretation. Nicholas shows us in his new book, When the Third Temple is Built, how the Bible interprets prophecy and not man's private interpretation. Visit crosstheborder.org, CROSS, crosstheborder.org, to get your print, EPUB, or PDF version of Nicholas Arthur's new book titled When the Third Temple is Built. That's crosstheborder.org.
The book of Revelation says, the spirit of prophecy is the testimony of Jesus Christ. This is at the very heart of FirstAmendmentRadio.com. In that spirit, we have created the Prophecy Reality News app for all of your mobile devices, streaming First Amendment Radio 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. Available for your Apple, Android device, and smartphone, absolutely free. Get the Prophecy Reality News app installed today so you can listen to First Amendment Radio wherever you are. The Prophecy Reality News app. Get it now.
Since the beginning of time, kings have sought it, nations have fought for it, It has been traded. It has been borrowed. It has been purchased. It has been stolen. There's a reason for it. To secure the blessings of liberty to ourselves and to our posterity. Invest with the security of gold and silver. Call Discount Gold and Silver Trading at 1-800-375-4188 or visit discountgoldandsilvertrading.net. Listen to Financial Survival with your host Melody Cedarstrom right here on FirstAmendmentRadio.com at 4 p.m. Eastern or 1 p.m. Pacific Time. Visit discountgoldandsilvertrading.net or call Discount Gold and Silver Trading at 1-800-375-4188. Toll free 1-800-375-4188.